Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glen Sutherland.
Hello and welcome to another episode of A Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week we're going to talk about how to challenge an appraisal that's come in low. Lenders will only give you enough money to buy a home at fair market value. If an appraisal comes in low, you may have to come up with a difference. Having an appraisal come in low is, of course, just as upsetting to the seller. When something like a low appraisal comes out of left field, it can leave everyone disturbed. Considering what impact a low appraisal can have on a home and home buying process, it is a good idea to educate yourself on the factors that can lead to a low appraisal. In some circumstances, you may be able to take some steps in order to improve the situation. In others, you just have to accept defeat. Either way, you will be better prepared to see the home's value in the same way an appraiser does. Sometimes an appraiser is just flat out wrong. Keep in mind, appraisers are just like the rest of us, and they make mistakes. For some reason, it's a good idea to understand how to dispute a low appraisal. Here's my list of potential factors leading to a low appraisal. Appraisers are human just like everyone else and can be influenced by external factors. You may think that all appraisers are like bean counters and just look at the numbers, how many bedrooms there are, what the square footage is, but that's not the case. An appraiser is going to look at the interior and exterior of the property as well. If there are dirty dishes in the sink, clothes hanging around, an awful smell of urine from a cat, and other number of unpleasant things, don't assume you won't affect the appraisal's judgment. Your home should be pristine on the day the appraiser arrives at your doorstep. Don't let the appraiser mentally check the box that your home is in terrible shape. The home can have an incredible finished basement with the right touches, but the appraiser will still have to calculate the value of the basement, differently than square footage of the above ground. While a finished basement can substantially expand the square footage of the home, the value of the basement space will still only be worth a fraction of what the similar space upstairs would be worth. In fact, one of the more common reasons why an appraisal comes in low is because of the basement valuation. A lot of times, appraisers aren't sure how to evaluate some of the things that have been added to the house, like home theaters, personal gyms, and all kinds of different upgrades. The value of the basement is much higher if the basement is a walkout and has a full-size windows. Another potential factor leading to a low appraisal is unusually low comps that the appraiser has chosen. To calculate the value of a home, appraisers look at nearby homes that have recently sold, known as comparable sales or comps. The comps the appraiser uses may have all the same features as the home in question, such as similar size, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, but a similar home can sell for lower than normal if there are underlying issues. The home may have had issues with mold, asbestos, for instance. If the appraiser doesn't look closely at the comp, he may be making an inaccurate comparison on the damage and the appraisal value. Home improvements and additions must be of similar value to other homes in the area to be valued as what you would expect. If every home in the neighborhood has a finished basement that costs $40,000, but the home you are looking at has a finished basement that costs $100,000, you run into problems. No matter how perfect the home is, the fact is that the home is much nicer than the other ones in the neighborhood. The appraisal value will be dragged down somewhat by the other homes in the area. When there are few homes nearby to compare to, the appraiser has no choice but to look further to find similar homes to aid in the appraisal. Unfortunately, where the appraiser looks may not be where you would like them to. For example, sometimes there just aren't enough comps in the one town, so the appraiser will go outside of the city. Whenever you go outside the community, it is far more difficult for an appraiser. It significantly increases the odds of the appraisal coming in low. The comps the appraiser uses may be in an area that is not as pleasant or desirable as where the home is located, which can negatively impact the appraisal. You may need to point out this problem to the appraiser because good comps need to be similar to the house you're looking at as possible, including the quality of the location. A great view is worth something. There is a possibility that the comps the appraiser is using do not have as nice a view as the home you're looking at does. This could lead to a lower appraisal value. You should make sure that the appraiser knows of the view. Of course, there is the possibility that the value you place on the view is not the same as the appraiser. Next, I want to talk about how to challenge an appraisal. The appraisal is one of the most important factors dictating what you can sell your home for. Banks will generally only lend buyers enough money to buy the home priced near or above the appraised value. So there is usually not much wiggle room when you set the higher price. The following information will give you some ideas on what you can do to get an improved appraisal value. The higher sales price goes along with it. Disputing a low real estate appraisal is not fun, but it's a necessary evil if you want to get agreed upon price on your home. Step 1, get your own copy of the appraisal. You can't figure out what went wrong if you don't have the full appraisal in front of you. When a home does not appraise, the buyer will be given a copy of the appraisal by the lender. You will not be able to fight a low appraisal without this report. First, you need to look for mistakes. The appraiser is only human, so if there is a possibility that he or she made one or more mistakes in the appraisal, placing your home in the wrong neighborhood, calculating less square footage, listing fewer bedrooms, baths, etc., it can all negatively impact the price of this house. Next, you want to look for comparables you don't agree with. Blatant errors are not common, so you may not find anything obviously wrong, but there is a good chance you'll find something or some issues with the other houses the appraiser used as comparables to yours. There are a number of categories where comparables can be inaccurate, including age, square footage, amenities, condition, the location, as in the neighborhood, the size of the lot, if it's a custom house, if it's modular, the school district. You may need to be accurate. The most accurate comparables would be homes that are as close to yours as possible. If you find the homes are not close to yours, you may find that might be one of the reasons why they're coming in low. Make sure there are no permit issues. If you find that the appraiser failed to include part of your home, like an addition or a remodel, there may be problems with the permits. The appraiser may have been unable to locate the permits for the work that was done on the house, which means that the improvements can't be included in the appraisal. Next step is you want to do the appraiser's job and create your own appraisal. One way you may want to do it is to work with a realtor to find comparable homes that may make your house shine or the value look better. You can also make a list of every feature that adds value to your home, including upgrades you've made, improvements like granite countertops, new kitchen cabinets, kitchen and bathroom renovations, finished basement, spectacular views, hardwood floors, etc. If you're working with like a turnkey provider in the States, you can usually have them pull comps, and they usually should give you comps when you buy the property. Next, you want to ask the appraiser for another appraisal. With your argument in hand, you can try to see if the appraiser will take another stab at appraising your home. In most cases, you'll just ask for a reconsideration through the bank or lender who hired the appraiser. Next, you want to ensure that this appraisal was not a drive-by, that the appraiser has actually been in the house and taken photos throughout. Next, you want to request the bank to do another appraisal or hire an appraiser on your own. If you have a strong argument that your initial appraisal was inaccurate, including thorough examination of the value of your home that contradicts the appraisal, you may be able to get another appraisal done. You may be able to get the original appraiser to try again, or you may need to demand a second appraiser. Again, your request will need to be aimed at the bank or lender that hired the appraiser. If you're not getting anywhere with your request for another appraisal, your only option may be to hire an appraiser yourself. Doing so will cost money, which you'll need to pay, but it may be worth it if you truly believe you'll get better results. But if you know your home is worth more money, it may be worthwhile to take a stab at it. Keep in mind, however, this will not rectify the situation that you're in because the buyer's lender is probably not going to accept your appraisal. You may be doing this for your own peace of mind moving forward with procuring another home buyer. So what happens when you go through with challenging the bank's appraisal and the appraiser won't budge? There are essentially 4 options you can take place when the appraisal comes in low and the bank will not lend the borrower the money based on the appraisal. You can reduce the sale price of your home to the appraised value. The buyer can come up with the additional money. A combination of these two things where the seller drops the price and the buyer comes up with additional money. The seller could give a second mortgage for the difference between the sale price and the appraisal. As a seller, I'm sure dropping your price to meet the lender's appraisal is not going to be your first choice. However, you really need to figure out if you've been fortunate enough to find a buyer who's really overpaying for your house. In other words, was the appraisal correct in the assessment of your home value? How likely is it that a scenario comes up like this again with the next buyer? Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of A Canadian Investing in the U.S. I'll see you next week.